Hello and welcome. I was given these oil pads and I've never really used them before, but I have them in two sizes. So the smaller one is a 10 by 7 inch and the bigger size is 12 by 9. Although this paper is for oils, I'm still going to use acrylic on them just because it's the only ones I have, and this is a nice way to do some quick painting studies. They take up so little space, so storing them is a great easy option. So in an effort to know thy materials, I want to do a field of flowers that has a range of colours in it. Also, just to show you here before I start painting, this is the difference between some acrylic and oil paints with the same name. So phthalo blue in acrylic paints here is more like this oil colour periwinkle blue that I have. This is what phthalo blue in oils looks like next to phthalo blue in acrylics. So if you decide to switch to oils, be prepared for differences in colour like this. It doesn't happen for all colours, but it can be weird when you come across it for the first time, especially if you're not expecting it. If I was going to use oils over acrylics or do a version of this exercise in oils, I'd be using the periwinkle blue rather than the phthalo blue. This paper has a surface that's similar to a canvas texture, so there's linen lines running horizontally and vertically, so it's not smooth. I start with sketching up the outlines of where things are going to be. The most important parts that I need to have on the sketch is going to be the apparent horizon line. This is going to be a pretty fuzzy area where the sky transitions to plants, so even though it has a soft gradient, I still need to know the point at where I want the sky to stop. And then for the flowers, I just really want to know where the ones that will be contrasting against the background are going to be. And then starting on the background, I'm blending in blues for the sky section. Acrylic dries a lot faster than oils, so it's a bit faster than what I was expecting, but I'm finding this section a bit awkward, but I'm just trying to keep up and get the next bit of paint on before it dries. There are mediums that you can get to mix with the paint, which will delay the drying time of acrylics, but I'm not going to be using those. The biggest takeaway that I want from doing this is to work faster. I set a time limit for this project, so again, nothing needs to be perfect. I also noticed that my pencil sketch is getting lost behind the paint a little too much, so I'm just going over it with a very watered down umber paint to outline everything before I carry on. The acrylics are so bright, and this is just a garden scene that I think will work well with the vibrancy of the paints. So I'm going to sort of rate myself around 50% confident in using acrylics and about 50% confident in painting on the paper. I'm not sure exactly how it will go, but I'll be okay with being able to make it at least 80% reasonable by the time I'm finished. So that's my estimation of myself at the start of this. So I start to add in some purple below the skyline and then phase into green for the garden section. I mix blues, greens and purples in to cover the rest of the background. These colours are on the cooler side, so that will help with making the warmer colours pop. As I'm adding paint, I'm plotting out where the colours are going, but I'm also trying to make sure the paint gets into all the little recesses of the paper so that it'll be 100% covered in paint. I don't want to see little white dots of canvas appearing from underneath the paint on this one. From a young age, I learnt a lot of art just from doing it. There was no internet, so you were limited to what was available at the shops at the time you went into the store, which, 9 times out of 10, was a stationery shop, so very often the choice in the art materials was small. Often I'd end up with a new colour because the red I wanted wasn't in stock, so I would choose another red colour to figure out if that would work when I got home. One of the big things for me is to learn the materials you're using. So get used to how the paint mixes and what it does when it gets applied to the canvas or board when you're starting out. Just start using it, play around and see what you can get it to do basically. It's often in moments of this playful curiosity that something develops, a certain style or certain texture that you end up thinking to yourself, I actually like that. I think that unique sense of that's me, that's my style. People will recognize that's my artwork when they see that is a huge step forward for any artist. And of course, during experimenting, there's also the possibility of creating a big mess of nothing. So that's also a way of learning on what not to do. So apologies for the lighting situation. There is a big contrast between natural daylight when it's overcast and when I'm using artificial lighting. But coming around to do the flowers, I'm putting the paint on pretty thick and then dragging the colours through each other a bit to get the shape of the flowers. I think it's turning out nice enough and the poppies look good against the background. So to summarize how I think this all went, I was using a lot of the colours straight out of the tube initially, so I found the greens that I have are quite similar, and once they were on the paper there wasn't actually a very noticeable difference. I cut my losses with that one. I didn't want to spend time correcting things. I'd prefer to get them more on point the first time around. If this was a painting that was going to go on display in the house, I'd spend the time to correct it. But when I add this to the painting journal, I'll probably just add some notes with it to show where I can try something different next time. That way, when I go through the journal, I can read the troubleshooting notes and it will remind me about where I can do better next time. The drying time was also less of an issue towards the end of the painting. I started to get into the swing of it a bit more, so painting became more fluid. Putting the time limit on also makes me fuss less about things. I'd spend hours perfecting every little thing, and it's nice to just not worry about having to do that. When I came to do the flowers, I spent a bit of time mixing up for this because I didn't get orange in the set, and after realizing how flat the green turned out, I didn't want the same for the poppies. I added some colors to the larkspurs and then basically finished off. I'm keeping separate brushes for acrylics at this point. I seem to find that oil paints are a bit kinder to brushes than acrylics are. But that's this done for this week. I hope you enjoyed this and we'll hopefully see you next time. Please also remember to like and subscribe. Bye.